Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. Can't believe it's already October 11th. Halloween is right around the corner. Fall season has begun. I know here leaves are already changing, some falling off trees. Very pretty outside. It's cooling off a bit. Good afternoon. Still 89 in Florida. Maybe it's less humid. Is that helping at all? It's 55 here. 55. Get that to go away. All right, I think we have a good amount of folks that have rolled in, so we'll go ahead and get started. So a small gap down today. We did trade higher. At one point, we looked like we were going to have a bullish engulfing candle of Friday's candle there, but that did not end up playing out. We did roll over. Here you can see the intraday price action, and we traded up pretty quickly, and then just right here. Traded up pretty quickly, double topped, and then rolled the rest of the afternoon. So if you made money in the morning going long, it was probably in the first like hour or so. You know, Dan's day trade was pretty profitable. That was quick. I had a day trade today on FCX and Nucor. Those were both really fast as well, and they ended up rolling over also. So I don't think it's any surprise that this gap filled. I think everyone expected it to fill, so I don't think that's that concerning. I think everybody expected this retest gap to fill. I don't really love the close on that candle because it did close back below the 100. Not as bearish as I was over here on this day when we were closing below all that support. We did end up holding it. So this should be where we end up rotating higher. If not, then I think we're going to end up getting back down to the 200. We could just chop around too. I mean, you can see there's pretty good resistance in this area. Yes, this does kind of look like a head and shoulders. So we will see if that ends up playing out. But when you zoom out, pretty minor pullback. If you look, you zoom out a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I'm mixed. I think it could go either way. Long term, obviously, we're going to go higher eventually. Just a matter of how much lower we go before we go higher. So the Qs, again, this gap filled. I don't think that was that big of a deal. I think everybody expected that gap to fill, but we did close back below the 100. The biggest thing is, will this 354 area hold? We closed below it over here, and I was really bearish on tech. We did end up holding this zone, so we could come back in and bounce, or if tomorrow we gap up and then go from there, that could totally make sense as well. You have all these short-term moving averages coming down on the price action, but you do have these long terms trying to hold it up. I would really love a retest of like these two highs, and that'll, depending on when we get there, if we get there, I guess, that'll also correspond with the 200. So I actually would really like that. We'll see if that happens or not. Again, if we gap up tomorrow and just continue higher, you know, this gap is filled. So we will see what happens. So cautiously optimistic on the Qs. IWM, I mean, just chopping around sideways. I don't even think I need this there at the moment. The 100, 200, we're just bouncing around. Been sideways the whole year. Not a whole lot to see on IWM. Again, we filled this retest gap, which I think that was pretty obvious that we were going to fill it. I like when gaps fill sooner rather than taking forever also, because then if we do continue higher, it's like, okay, that gap's filled versus having to worry about it filling for weeks or something like that. We go over to the Dow. This gap did not quite fill on the DIA. It'll probably fill overnight, maybe tomorrow morning. A little similar to the IWM, although it is up for the year. Most of that came in the first quarter. the rest of the year we've been going pretty sideways, just chopping around between these blue lines. And yeah, if this comes down to the 200, I mean, that's where we've been multiple times. So I don't think we would have to worry too much. Now, if we do something like this and we come down there, trade higher, and then fail, if we do that, then that could be pretty bearish, but that hasn't happened yet. So we will see. That's my thoughts on the overall markets. Questions, concerns, oppositional viewpoints. All right, let's dive into some individual tickers. Either way, I think directional swing trading is going to be a little bit tough. You're going to have to be very quick. It's not going to be the type of market to like get into a swing trade and try to hold for 2, 3, 4 weeks. I think if you go up like on R, 0.8 R, and you just want to take the gain, I think that's valid until we prove which direction we're going to go. It's looking a little choppy. So selling options, day trading, picking up some things longer term, because you never know when the bottom's going to be in. But short-term directional swing trading, I think, is going to be really not impossible, but I think we're just going to have to be fast. That makes sense. No puts until below the pivot. On what? So I still have the put spread on SPY. It expires Friday, but I mean, I can't lose on it because I sold the put for what I bought the other one, the long one for. So that expires, and then I have one put on the Qs. That's it, and that's till November. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do puts on IWM until this like would break down and then retest. And there's some individual names I have collars on, etc. But otherwise, I think day trading bearish will probably be enough. Especially since we bounced right here, I don't think we're really going to like free fall. You never know. I can always change. I'm down to change my mind. One candle can change everything. So if we get some crazy, bull candle, or we get some crazy bear candle, there's nothing wrong with changing your sentiment. It's okay to be wrong. You just don't want to stay wrong. You lose a lot of money. Here's Apple. Again, Apple looked like it was going to engulf 2 days worth of price action. So that actually looked really bullish this morning, but it ended up rolling over. It is above the 100. I don't think I'm going to add any shares on Apple till we get back into this 137 or like 135. I would really like off the 200. Or if tomorrow, by some miracle, like we gap above this candle today, I think that could be good. That'd be back above all the moving averages, the short-term ones at least. But for right now, I think it's just, slowly buy shares on dips. I don't think I would swing trade this aggressively. Maybe some day trades, etc. But again, this gap filled right there. Lesson of the day, it's all right to be wrong, just don't stay wrong. Yeah. Don't stay wrong for too long. It can cost you a lot of money. Cost you a lot of money. Bros, I like this candle. So if you got in some bros on a pullback, congrats. Nice candle. Good volume. Look at the volume on Friday, practically non-existent. Only 400,000. Today was 4 million, so 10 times the volume. So that's kind of cool. If you want to swing trade bros, I'd probably do it in pieces. Probably do something like this. Yeah, I think I would go just below 40. Like not 39.99 or anything like that in case it like wicks through and then bounces. But maybe something like this. I'm working on building a position on this one. I only have a very, very small amount right now, so I'm not going to set up any official swing trade on it. But that's probably how I would play it. I was playing bros. Benzinga was pumping this one on Friday. I like the close above all these candles. Here's the weekly. So looks good. Looks like a nice little S curve on the weekly. see, intraday. Yeah, most of the volume came at the beginning of the day. Yeah, I would expect it to retest a little bit. That's where you could snag some. Cook is definitely breaking down, so on its way to 18, hopefully. So if you're into Cook, yeah, I wouldn't be aggressively shorting it or anything because like your risk reward just isn't that great. Am I actually going to buy at 18? Why not? Yeah, I mean, not a lot, but yeah, that was originally what the IPO price should have been. So, and I've been asking for it, so I'll buy a little bit at 18. Let it hang out, chop around, and maybe buy a little bit more. They actually make money. They make a physical thing. Not sure if their prices have gone up. You know, base materials with inflation have probably gone up. So I'm not sure if they've passed along those increase in prices yet, but I'm sure that I'm sure it's coming. Yeah, a lot of Traeger fans. So nothing on it until then. Probably just slowly accumulating shares longer term. Costco, I mean, whew, geez, I mean this thing. What a rally this thing has had, and I think earnings were good. It's just expectations were so high. So I would wait for at least the 100 on this one. I think it could come back down there. Or like, here's the weekly on it. I would love a retest back into 400. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon or not, but just be careful buying this one too high. Yes, they're going to pass along costs to customers, but I also know I've been seeing some photos and videos going around that there's some Costco's with some empty shelves out there, and that they're limiting some products again. And even if they do raise prices, you know, if they're limiting the amount of products they're selling, that's not going to be good. Just toilet paper they're limiting again. So until they can get all those cargo ships unloaded that are floating around outside of and chicken. Okay, so yeah, there's a couple things. If your name is Yates, that's right. That's where Yates buys all his chicken, huh? And water. Yep. Yeah, they need to unload those cargo ships. I would just be careful with like the Costco's, you know, etc. Because they need products to sell in order to make money. So I would wait personally until it came into the 100. If you're in Costco, maybe you could sell some calls or put a collar on. Obviously, you want to wait for a bullish day before you sell a call. But that's my thoughts on Costco. DATS. I know this one is being pumped a lot on Twitter. I think that Zach Morris dude was pumping this one. So, in my opinion, this is a pump and dump. I think Yates said there's like 5 reviews of this company. Until we take this candle out with all this volume, I think that the top is in. This is really strong volume, though, for this to just be like the second. You know, a lot of times you'll get this on the parabolic charts, and then you'll get something like that. But this is a lot of volume here, so it could go one more time. Just be really careful playing stocks like this. Let me see, what's the total float on DATS? Oh my goodness, that's it? Only 11 million shares? Yeah, be very, very careful. Not sure if everyone's seen that video of that escalator that like went out of control and was going downhill with all those people on it just slamming into each other. That's what happens when everybody tries their head for the exit at the same time on something like this, and you just get absolutely crushed because you have no one to sell to. So literally the entire stock the last 2 days, about 111 million. So the entire stock has changed hands 10 times in the last 2 days. That's generally not a good thing. So I would steer clear or be very, very careful. Make sure you have targets in. Your stop may or may not protect you on something like this when when things turn around. I know this was the other one that same guy was pumping. And like this had like a 50-cent gap in this candle where it got halted. So, and you know, you go to a chart and it's like, yeah. And I know that's not specifically DATS, but it's the same guy on Twitter pumping it. So I'm not a believer. I would steer clear. EXPE. I actually like this down that it's breaking out of this downtrend. That looks pretty nice. So breaking out of the downtrend, I'd see if you can get a retest and then try to take it higher. Let's see. Got the this looks like a Canadian goose right here. There's the long neck. You got the little beak with the long-term moving averages. So yeah, this one not too bad. I'd probably try to grab it down here like 160. You need some type of good risk reward if you grab it down here, because you really need to have a stop like in this area. That's still pretty big. Maybe this is one you grab in partials also, but earnings are coming up, so it might not get there that quick. Yeah, I think we're going to hear that a lot over the next couple weeks because earnings season starts, I think, next week. Yeah, we start to get, is it end of this week? Okay, end of this week, like Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. This week, earnings season is going to start, and then next week and the week after are going to be pretty heavy from earnings standpoint. So also be really careful with your swing trades, because TradingView kind of has this reputation of not being accurate on their earnings dates. So always double check with Earnings Whisperer, TOS, your broker, the actual company's website, etc., just to make sure that those earning dates are correct. A well-earned reputation. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, that's one thing that you'd think that they would have gotten so much feedback on that they would have fixed by now. And if they don't know, like, then just don't put it on there. Like, it should only pop up once it's actually confirmed. You would think. So EXP, let's see. Weekly chart, a huge move. Bubble burst over here. I mean, it's definitely at a decision point. Like, this is right where I would draw my line. If you're picking some up in here, I totally get it. It's just, it's tough, like when you have with trend lines, right? Like you could draw a trend line like this and we're retesting it from the bottom and rolling over. Or I could go, oh, look, this trend line's holding. And then we're actually going to do that. So that's what makes trend lines a little bit difficult. But you do have a series of what looks like higher lows. But you also have some lower highs in here. So I think more of an accumulation phase on this one. So just buying a few shares as it goes sideways, and then looking to sell into supply zones. Because there's definitely going to be a lot of bag holders up in this area. And you know there's some people that got in late here, then they thought this was the breakout, thought that was the breakout. Every one of those times they've been trapped, so this 50 going to be big resistance. But if you can make money between 40 and 50, yeah, that's $10. That's a 20% move. That's pretty solid. So we'll see what it does as it chops sideways there. Hood. So this one's actually been a lot calmer, especially after this craziness that went on at the beginning. I'm actually surprised how calm this one has been. And it looks like it's just going to keep going sideways, probably into next earnings. And I have a feeling they're going to crush it, especially with crypto doing what crypto's doing right now. I have a feeling they're making quite a bit of money on those payment for order flow spreads on crypto. So this is more of a accumulation slowly as well. You know, I don't think it's going to go back to 70 anytime soon or anything like that. But I do like accumulating in this zone. I have I think it's a 35. Let me double check. Yeah, I have a January 2023 $35 call, and then I'm just selling some calls against it. Like I have a 46. Yeah, that expires on Friday. I got a $46 call that expires Friday. And there's some good premium on the front month options. So if you do these right, I think you could pay off these leaps like pretty easy on Robinhood. But that's what I have on it. So accumulating down in this area, I think if you're wanting to play Robinhood, probably where you want to do it. I don't see anything on it right now. Can I talk about when you choose weekly versus monthly covered calls? I very rarely do weekly, Chris. I usually sell the months, especially on a stock that just, well, Hood has decent weeklies, but if a lot of times if the weekly, like, I'll just pull this over. It's like this one, the weeklies, you can see it has strikes like every 50 cents, and the spread isn't great, but it's not, I've seen worse. There's decent amount of volume, I think, too. There's some open interest. But let's say these strikes were every $2.50. I wouldn't even touch the weeklies. So a lot of it also depends on the option chain. But generally, I like to stick to the monthly expirations personally. Hopefully that's helpful. Unless it's something I actively want to get called away on. If I'm really, just not liking the movement of the chart and I want to get as much premium as possible or get called away, then I'll sell, at the money weeklies or something like that. Pag Seguro, this thing is getting, wow. Last time I looked at it, it was up here, which was still not good, but this thing got annihilated in the last 2 days. So what happened to this? This is down 30% in 2 days. Oh my goodness. Volume is increasing. Literally the most volume since this thing IPO'd. Yeah, I think I'd steer clear of this one. We're well below the 100 on the weekly. All the monthlies. Yeah, be very careful trying to catch this knife. Yeah, this volume is crazy. So be really, really careful on this one. I know they do payment processing, but yeah, you're either gonna be like a magician and catch the knife, or it's just gonna stab right through your hand. So regulatory body thinking of capping their fees. Well, yeah, that's not a good thing. Yeah, I know it's Brazilian. This one in Stone Cold. And this thing has just been on an absolute free fall as well. So I would steer clear of both of these. Yeah, I can add that one. I'd steer clear of both of these. Wait until they establish a little bit of a base first. Like, let them stop going down at least and maybe go sideways. Then you can play a reversal and at least you have a level to lean on. But right now, I mean, who knows? Sun could go down another 30% tomorrow. There's nothing stopping it. And look at Stone Cold. So I think there's definitely some folks that learn their lesson with like Fastly and Teladoc. Um, Sammy says I'm done playing with fire. Yeah. Amwell. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Let it form a base. Yep. I like that idea. Plug power. So this is forming a base. I know everyone loved it over here. This is one of those charts that long term like doesn't look great, but it is starting to form a base down here. So if you are accumulating, I think this is your accumulation zone. You know, if you're into Dow theory, so you want to try to buy as low as possible, and then you want to be able to either take some profits as it trades up into this area, and or sell some calls, throw some collars on, lock in gains. But just be, you know, careful with how much you're buying of this. I don't think it's going back to 75 anytime soon. I think it's going to take a while. But yeah, just when you zoom out, sometimes when in doubt, zoom out. And yeah, I don't know a lot of like really successful companies that have a chart that look like this on the weekly. It was never really at $1,500. This is like reverse splits. So yeah, just again, be careful, accumulate slowly. Talk about compression. Yeah, it's about to pop. Yeah, it might pop down though. It's the only, it could go either way. This one, I mean, if you have your stop though, I think you'd be fine. I don't think it's gonna gap down like 30% overnight. Roblox, this is not great. Closing back below here and here and here. Let's see, did we close below this? 70, 33, 70, 20. So we did close below this candle. Now today I was actually in a coaching session, and this $70 level, we cleared out a lot of the orders there. That was an area that there was definitely a pocket of liquidity. So 70 is big round number. There's a lot of stops right there. There was a lot of limit buys. If people were shorting it, you know, that was a big target. And it did hold 70. So I would want that to hold. If it starts to form a base and then breaks that base in here, I think I'll buy puts on Roblox. It is a little more speculative. I think I have like 110 shares of this now. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I know it's still really popular. I don't think they came out with their numbers for September yet, because they release them each month. Yeah, they don't have their September. So any day now we should get their September numbers. So we'll see what happens on Roblox. But we really wanted this level to hold over here, and it didn't really do that. So just be careful with how much you're buying. Could it come all the way down to 60? Definitely could. It could. Rocket Lab. Burning up my fuse up here alone. So it rocketed and does what rockets do, and it came back to Earth. It's a question of whether or not this thing's going to have a soft landing. I don't know anything about this company. I know there's definitely some people that like it. It is a SPAC, financial conglomerate. So, you know, just be careful with a lot of these. These are fine for speculative plays, but you don't want your whole portfolio in speculative plays. If you have like 10, 20%, that 20 is kind of large. 10 is probably more appropriate that you're throwing into speculative plays. Then, you know, yeah, but if you have 50% of your account in speculative plays, and you know they can drop 50, 60%, a good way to lose a lot of money pretty fast. Doesn't mean that it can't go to back to $8 or $9. So I know that SpaceX got a pretty good valuation on one of their raises. This only has 40 million shares outstanding. The market cap is 6.6 billion. Price to sales of 118. A little lofty. How many rockets did they send? Like 2? 55 million in revenue. Lofty? Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. Made a pun without even trying. Yeah, if you're playing these, either have stops and just take the loss, or use absolute zero. That's all. Like if you traded it over here, you hit your targets, you're out, and then, you know, just wait. At least they have revenue, right? It's better than Virgin Galactic. So they do have some revenue, but it's $6 billion. It's trading at 118 times price of sales. So they got to send quite a few more rockets up. SBUX. Yeah, they got a ways to go to the moon. So SBUX is at some support. We did close back below the 200, so it's not terrific. I know quite a few of us played SBUX in here and sold somewhere up in, whether it was here or up here in this area. The thing that's really worrisome on SBUX is this island reversal right there. And here's the weekly. The weekly is looking a little head and shoulder-ish on SBUX. I think the labor shortage is also hurting them. Totally anecdotal, but there's 2 SBUXs near me that they don't even have enough people to stay open the whole day. So that's not great for SBUX. But if you're nibbling in here, I think that's definitely, SBUX isn't going out of business anytime soon. We got earnings coming up, so we'll see. Personally, I think I would rather play Dutch Brothers right now. Yeah, I got my PSL gains over here, and yeah, that was it. And I do think there is some of that, Sammy. Yeah, people were home; they learned that they could make their own coffee. Yeah, I mean, I must have saved tens of thousands of dollars with my own espresso machine. Yeah, I think there's definitely a buying spot here. I just wouldn't buy a ton. I wouldn't be buying all of it. If you want to establish a position, 10-20% in here, probably doable. And just in case, I'd have my 40% anywhere between 94 and 97. It's short on the 78-minute Momo and on the daily. Yeah, just be aware if you are short on something that has dividends. No, Tesla's a couple more, 3 more slots. If you are short on something that has dividends, you have to pay those dividends. Just be aware of that. You have to pay the dividends unless you buy puts. But if you're shorting shares on something that has a dividend, you have to pay the dividend, which kind of stinks. So something to be aware of. SOFI, Dan had a killer trade on SOFI this morning. This is a huge volume candle. Great close back above both of these pivot points. So if you want SOFI, it depends on how you want to straddle 18. You either do your limit right in front of 18 or you do it right behind 18. So if you want to do like 1801 or 1802 and then like a 17 or 1790 something, and I'd probably have the other like this. And I know it's a pretty obvious stop. So you could either go there. I'd probably have my stop somewhere down in there. Here's probably better. Oops. You can do something like this. Long term, tell me if this reminds you of anything. So they refinance student loans. They package them into like collateralized debt packages, and then they sell them. Does that remind anyone of anything? Hector's laughing. Yeah. So long term, I mean, we're gonna look back and go, what were we thinking? But in the short term, this is a great candle. There's some solid volume here. The most volume since I think this was a SPAC. So where would I put my target? I would try to target this area right up in here. Yeah, I'd try to target this area just based on this upper wick, this lower wick, these wicks. You got that gap right there, that gap right there. So I would target somewhere up in here. Let's see if I can just volume profile, visible range. Yeah, a lot of volume down in here. Yeah, maybe it gets up to 22, but yeah, something like that would be how I would play it. How are they making money right now? No one's paying student loans. I mean, they don't. This company doesn't make money on you paying your student loans. They make money on refinancing them, packaging them into books of loans, and then selling them. So, yeah, one day the U.S. government will probably be the conservator of this thing, like Fannie Mae. But that day is not today, so try to make money on it. In the meantime, just use a stop. Be very careful. But yeah, we're gonna look back on that one and go, what were we thinking? Oh, what this line is from. So Square, unfortunately, stopped me out right below there. I guess that was just too obvious of a stop on my swing trade, and then it bounced, but it has rolled over. It also, the other thing that's a little concerning, like this lower high. So now we have some confirmed lower highs, and we actually have some lower lows. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I really like Square as a company. I like moves they've made with not just payment services, but crypto and Cash App and stock trading. I think Square, they're doing lending now on like accounts receivables, etc. They have their banking charter, but we do have a bunch of lower lows and we do have lower highs. So I would try to buy this one as low as possible. I had sold some 190 puts on it and I was able to buy those back when it bounced. I'd definitely be willing to sell them again though. If we get a little more continuation selling and I could sell another 190 down here. Let's see, when is their actual earnings? November 4th. Yeah, like a 190, yeah, 190, 180. See, long term on the weeklies. You never know. Eventually, it could hit the 100 on the weekly, but by the time that happens, it would probably be 180 or 185. Yeah, just great for day trades. Be really careful trying to directionally swing trade this. It's very choppy, as you can tell, and as I experienced over here. But it retested the long terms and then closed back below them. So short term, a little more bearish on Square. The Tesla machine just kind of chopping around. I mean, this should have been the greatest gap, great EXPE on that day. It was not, and it continues to struggle with this 800 level for whatever reason. If you go in a little bit shorter term, you can see it does have lower highs. It does have higher lows. So it looks like it is compressing for some type of move, but that's what we've been saying, and it hasn't really popped. It's been grinding higher steadily. But I feel like if it was really going to go, like this gap should have been it. I mean, we gapped above 4 or 5 days worth of price action there. So I think it's definitely dip buyable. If you're selling calls anywhere up here, I'm pretty sure that the high is in for the year. Not for 2022. I think it could make another high, but I think the high is in for 2021. So we already know they're going to crush earnings. I would probably not buy options over earnings because we already know they're going to crush earnings based on deliveries. They're not doing dividends. Elon said that they're not going to do it at the last at the investor meeting. No, not. He said they're not even considering it. Yeah. And they're not currently considering a stock split either. So currently means like they could later, but yeah, there was a lot of rumors about that. And a company like Tesla, like they're reinvesting into more production, etc. Like the idea that they would do dividends just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, moving to Texas was the new news. Yeah, and once the Austin Gigafactory gets built and is up to speed, I foresee them probably shutting down Fremont or slowing the production there and completely exiting California. But yeah, Tesla still looks good. It's grinding higher. I think it probably retests 760 one more time. So just slowly accumulate. You know, if it does get up into the 800s, 820, you know, you could sell some calls up in this area. Don't buy options over earnings because they haven't really been gapping over earnings. Anyone who's been buying options has just been getting crushed. You know, if it's pricing in like a $40, $50 move and you only get like a $10 gap, your options are just getting annihilated. So, yeah, but long term bullish. This 1028 is a longer term target. Unless you're selling, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some money on puts. It's not like a ton, but I just looked today. I think you can go over earnings. I think there's even money. Even if you did like November 5th. November 5th, like 600 has about $7. Yeah, unless if you're selling options, that's great. But buying options, yeah, don't do it over earnings because the volatility is just getting annihilated. The implied volatility is just, yeah. And whatever you do, don't buy like way out of the money calls because you're just begging to lose to no gap, the IV crush. You going pretty sideways here. This one actually held up pretty nicely. Looked like it was going to come back down to this blue line, but it did bounce. I know that this one is big in like metaverse, right? So it does have a nice uptrend here. It looks like a nice little channel. So I would say buy it as low as possible and then sell it as it goes into the upper end of the channel. But it held up pretty good today. And again, it's above all the long-term moving averages. There's definitely going to be resistance between 145 and 150 area. This gap didn't completely fill. So if I was in U, I would target this gap fill. Yeah, I would try to get one or two more bullish days, Albert, before I threw a collar on. I might have actually sold it on this day. Just because 1, 2, 3, when it was up here, that would have been 4 up days. I like to see 4 up days in a row, if possible. So see if you can get 1 or 2 more up days, and then you could probably look to sell calls up here. Depends on where you want to buy puts, right? The higher you want to buy puts, the lower you're going to have to sell calls. I personally like to have my callers pay for themselves. And then the other thing too is you don't always need protection to 0. So if you have taken the hedging with options course, if you just buy a put at, let's say 120, you're protecting all the way to 0. You don't always need protection to 0. So there are some other ways that you can sell a put underneath your bought put to help keep your caller a net credit instead of a net debit and still have some protection to the downside. V, I think V is just in accumulation. I know there's a lot of folks that were pyramiding in and they pretty much hit their last area, their pyramid. I mean, off this blue line, you have all of these prior highs that became new support. So it's a great pivot area on Visa. I don't think Visa's going anywhere, but I don't think it's going, back to an all-time high next week. So I would just slowly accumulate this and then sell some calls against it. Like over here was a great day to sell calls, right? Because we had just gone up, 7% in like 4 or 5 days, multiple up days in a row. So that was a great day to sell a call over here. Maybe this day you got some premium. Right now it's just chopping between the 100 and 200. But the long-term trend on Visa is pretty solid. It does have some higher lows in here. It does have some lower highs though, so kind of compressing and going sideways. And I just think that's why it's going to be a little bit tougher to be doing directional swing trades. I'm not going to be doing a ton of them because when the market's choppy, it's just too easy to get chopped up. Visa might be good for bull put spreads and bear call spreads, maybe some iron condor action on Visa. Zim. Yeah, that was a pretty bearish close. We retested the 100 from the bottom, and it looks like we're gonna roll over. Although, I know shipping cargo containers is like 5 times what it was a couple months ago or something like that. Something crazy. But I don't think I'd be buying a ton of this. Was the $2? I don't know. It looks like it probably was a one-time dividend. I'd have to look into that. Let me see if I can tell real quick. Shouldn't have too much news. Back in September. Yeah, end of August. Yeah, I'd have to do a little bit more research. Google and or go to their investor relations. We'll probably have a press release about it. Usually, if it's a big one like this, then it's usually like a once a year or a one-time thing. So yeah, the trend is starting to not be as bullish though. You're still in a long-term trend, obviously. But this thing it's came a long way. Let's put it that way, right? It was up 400%. It's still up 285%. So this thing, I could see it pulling all the way back into 34. It's like a 25% haircut from here. That's probably where if I wanted to play it, that's where I would look to play it. I don't think that this has a huge short float. ZIM. So the float's pretty small. Short float's only 2%. Yeah, I don't think I would short this. Yeah, it says no dividend here, so I think that was a one-time dividend. So yeah, nothing really on Zim unless you want to play it a little bit longer term. DraftKings, I think, is going to be on its way to 44. Anywhere between 40 and 44, I think, are the buy zones on DraftKings. They're spending a lot of money doing acquisitions, which I think is good long term. But I would say that the trend has broken and it's retested from the bottom now. You have some $55 calls on DraftKings for end of November. Short calls or long? Long? Yeah, I think they'll probably expire worthless. 55 is pretty far away. Not sure if they had stops on them or what. But yeah, with this, if I was using options, I would want to buy in the money or deep in the money calls. It's going to make it easier for them to retain value. You're going to be able to sell calls against them easier, etc. When things are in like screaming uptrends, like maybe over here, Yeah, maybe you're buying out of the money calls on like this pullback. It's like now that we've started to break that trend, like now we have a bunch of lower highs, and we started getting a bunch of lower lows. I don't think you want to go out of the money. It just makes it a little bit tougher because if an option is out of the money, there is zero intrinsic value. Only thing you have is time and hope. So I'd probably just say shares or like really deep in the money, like $30 to $35 calls, something like that. Otherwise, I think this is your accumulation zone. Accumulate shares. Eventually, I think DraftKings goes higher, but they are spending a lot of money doing acquisitions and stuff like that. So I want to say that their price of sales just came down 19. It's not like super crazy high, but the gross margin's pretty decent. Sales quarter over quarter is good. Yeah, I would wait a little bit. I'd wait a little bit and just slowly accumulate DraftKings. Hasbro. So I had a swing trade on Hasbro over here. I'll just share with you guys what I did. So I had a swing trade. It was like right around 90 getting in, or 89 and change. And I got triggered in on this candle. I'm like, well, that's not good. Probably going to get stopped out of that. And then we had this bounce. So I'm like, you know what? This is like that gap's for sure going to fill. So I sold right as we were hitting the 10, and I just re-entered the order down there, and I was filled at open this morning. My order was 88.25, and I actually got filled at 88. That's where it opened today. So we will see what happens. What I'm hoping for is that this is a really extended move, and we're gonna do something like this up into earnings right before the holiday season, that kind of thing. Yeah, they make toys and card games and collectibles and things like that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I really don't want to hold over earnings unless I'm pretty like if this thing's at like 92 or higher, they'll probably hold over earnings. Otherwise, I don't really want. Why did I think the gap would fill? Most gaps fill, Tad. And most gaps fill, and that's like a retest gap right into the moving average. The last couple times it hit the 10, what did it do? It retraced back down. What percentage of gaps fill on a daily chart? I don't 90+%. I'm literally just making that up, but most gaps fill. I don't know why, other than it's like kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's like a hole in the price action. See, like this gap. But yeah, most gaps fill, and the last few times it's hit the 10, it's acted as some resistance. So what I'm looking for is took the small win there. We'll reset it up lower. So I got triggered in today, and we'll see if it bounces a little bit. So that's Hasbro. I'm already in that one, so I can't really make that official. So Southwest canceling thousands of flights. I heard they canceled a few hundred more. I don't know what's going on. Allegedly bad weather or something. But I also heard that like the pilots are doing a sick out or something. I don't know. I don't think airlines are really ever a good investment. The business is they just never really make money. And they took on so much debt during COVID that yeah, I don't really want to invest in any airlines. Like if we were still trading down in this area, yeah, oil prices going up. Now, granted, they do hedge that with futures. However, that doesn't help them. That's for sure. And then you have some of the issues with the staffing and etc. And you know, there's a lot of red tape with the FAA and all that. So big gap down. Did this actually trade all the way up there? It did, and then it rolled over. So honestly, I'd probably buy puts. I'd probably buy like $50 puts. Probably over earnings. What are earnings on this? It's like a little more of a lotto play. October 21st. Let's see what they cost. It's not often that I say like buy options over earnings. Yeah, I mean, you could buy November 5th $50 puts are $1.25. Regular November, so that's 39 days out. $50 puts are $1.60 something. $1.63, 64. Especially if you can get an inside bullish candle tomorrow and you want to buy them in case it breaks. Yeah, it's a tough business. You know, price transparency, it's like a race to the bottom on fares. I mean, heck, like people literally risk their lives and fly on Spirit to save $50. So it's, I think Justin flies American to save $60. He was telling me. So it's like literally a race to the bottom. So I just don't like that type of business model. And yeah, business travel's never really coming back the way it was pre-pandemic. So personally, I would steer clear. I know Warren Buffett sold the bottom, but long term, I think he's going to be right that they're never really great to invest in very much. Yeah, American Airlines is literally the worst airline ever. So when we have more time, I can tell you all the story. But that's it today. Again, I'm not setting up a ton of directional swing trades. So I think the only short-term one that I have open right now is Hasbro. Let me double check. I'm doing a lot more option selling, you know, nibbling on some things for longer term, and then, you know, actively day trading. So like today, since I wasn't in the room because I switched with Dan, FCX was a phenomenal day trade. So this was a gap and go right above the 200. And look at this 3-minute candle. Now, I played this on TOS. Like by the time I saw it, I literally marketed in, and my order sat there for almost 5 minutes as the stock went like this, and it was just floating in here. It did end up filling me, but it filled me like all the way up here. Yeah, like I recorded it on my phone and sent it to a friend. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I have a market order that's like just bouncing around, but this was a great day trade. This one, New Core, was more of like a play on the 1-2 minute chart right in here. But those were some good trades. So some swing trade or some day trading, option selling, and long-term stuff I think will be good. All right, let's go over to get a list for Yates for tomorrow. What would y'all want Yates to look at? ACN, Riot, Boeing, RTX, good old Raytheon. Yeah, Nucor was a little spready on the open. Once I got into it, I realized that. Baba, Tesla, VZ, that was down today. Twitter, Coin. Upwork's been a beast. I'll probably get called away on that this Friday. Jumanji, Fiverr, Apple, Wix, Fubo. Yeah, we got Coin. Teladoc. First Solar looks good. Solar stocks had a nice day. NMG. All right, sweet. I will send this over to Yates. And everyone, have a great rest of your Monday. Love life, trade it. Thanks, everyone.